countries involved must agree before reaching a final decision, or else one one policy or one framework will not be passed if one ASEAN member state leader will not agree. Next slide. So in MUN, you have the General Assembly, which is in MAM, it is equivalent to the ASEAN Summit. And in MUN, you have different councils, such as the UN Security Council, Economic and Social Council, and other specialized agencies. Meanwhile, in MAM, you have these three councils, which I mentioned earlier: the Political Security Council, Economic Council, and Sociocultural Council. Next slide. In MAM, in most cases, you'll have 8 delegates per country, one head government, 3 ministers, 1 minister per pillar, and 3 senior officials, which is 1 senior official per pillar, and also an additional foreign minister or its equivalent for the ASEAN Coordinating Council meeting. But it still depends on the organizer of MAM whether they will have the foreign minister and the senior officials. But nevertheless, the most important is to have ministers and the head of government. While in MUN, typically only 1 delegate per country per council. Next slide. So documents, for the preparatory documents in MUN, you have the position paper, whereas in MAM, you have 2 papers that you need to write. Those are the position paper and strategy paper, which I will discuss after some slides. Next is working documents. So in MUN, you call it working paper. In MAM, we call it draft chairman's statement. And those are the documents that you will be working on during that simulation. And at the end of that, you will have the outcome document, which is the chairman's statement, which in MUN's equivalent is the resolution. Next slide. Okay, so now I will be talking about the facilitator, the leadership, the requirements, and the speaking order, and the speaking time and discussion. So the ASEAN Secretariat aids the ASEAN chairman by providing administrative support and note taking. Whereas in MUN, you have the DIES, which assists the chair by managing time and other logistical aspects of the committee sessions. For leadership, you have the ASEAN chairman, which is the national delegate who must balance their country's interest with the role of a neutral chairperson. In MUN, that is the chair. For the meeting requirement, in MUN, you have a quorum, whereas in MAM, you don't have any of that. For the speaking order, in MUN, you have the general speakers list, but in MAM, you don't have. You don't have any order of speaking, which means as long as you want to speak, you can raise your hand, and when the chair recognizes you, you may be able to speak. And for the speaking time in MAM, you also don't have the time limit, whereas in MUN you have the time limit of 1 minute, 1.5 minute, or 2 minutes. And for informal discussions, you have the informal consultations in MAM, whereas in MUN you have the unmoderated focus. Next slide. For the points and motions, yielding, procedural voting, and substantive voting that you have in MUN, well, unfortunately, in MAM, you don't have any of that. But that doesn't mean that MAM is not interesting enough. It interesting because of the way of consensus building, which you need to persuade other ASEAN member state leaders and ministers to be on your side of your team on certain issues. Next slide. Okay, for the flow process of MAN. Next slide. Okay, so in the model ASEAN meeting, you'll follow a structured process similar to the real ASEAN summit. It includes opening ceremony of the ASEAN summit, ASEAN sectoral senior officials meetings, ASEAN sectoral ministerial meeting, ASEAN community council meeting, ASEAN coordinating council meeting, and the closing ceremony of the ASEAN summit, where the chairman's statement is decided. So it starts with an opening ceremony where each head of government gives a speech on their country's views. Next, you'll split into groups for the ASEAN sectoral senior officials meetings, where you'll work on different issues related to political security, economic, and sociocultural areas at the same time. So you will do it in a parallel way. So the ministers and the senior officials of each pillar will do the same meeting at the same time to discuss these issues in more detail, the issues that is very important in each pillar. Then everyone comes together for the ASEAN Community Council meeting to bring together the different ideas and find connections between the country's ASEAN Political Security Council, ASEAN Economic Council, and ASEAN Socio-Cultural Council's issues. And then you will plan how to tackle problems and move forward with ASEAN goals. And finally, the summit ends with a closing ceremony where the heads of government decide to whether approve and sign the chairman's statement or not. Remember, the agreement is in a consensus way, which means all 10 head of governments of ASEAN member states must approve and sign. If one ASEAN leader will not sign the chairman's statement, everything that the ministers and the senior officials discussed and debated will not be moved on and it will not be passed into a framework. Next slide. ASEAN Summit. Article 7 of the ASEAN Charter stipulates that the ASEAN Summit is the highest policy and decision making mechanism of ASEAN where heads of state meet. The first summit is the opening ceremony, where the tone and agenda setting of the MAM are set. The member state holding the ASEAN chairmanship will make an opening address in front of the various heads of governments and attendees of the event. Following the chairman's opening speech, each head of government of the 9 ASEAN member states will be given an opportunity to do a short speech. It's going to be in an alphabetical order. So basically, the national chairman and then the ASEAN member states in alphabetical way. And then senior officials and ministers, you have to listen to the head of government of each country and you need to take down notes so you will know their priorities and national interests and you will know who will be your allies or not. Let's say I'm the leader of Cambodia. Then, from the speech of the head of government of Vietnam, they want to prioritize the sustainability in the Mekong region. Since Cambodia's national interest is also in line with their priority, I will plan to build a coalition with Vietnam to realize the sustainability in the Mekong region. So, Vietnam will be my friend. However, let's say Lao PDR has previously established bilateral agreement with China, and by the help of China, it wants to focus on making dams instead of preserving the Mekong River. It will be a little hard for Cambodia as well as for Vietnam to resolve the issue, and more hard work must be done to persuade Lao PDR. So this is the job of the representative of all ASEAN member states, and you will experience this in the AFMAM simulation. Next slide. ASEAN Sectoral Senior Officials Meeting. Delegates will need to role play senior officials from the 10 ASEAN member states. As you would attend the SOM, it will exist under one of the pillars of the community councils. So the senior official meetings of the three pillars will be run concurrently or in parallel. It means that the SOM for APSC, AEC, and ASCC will run at the same time. Then it will kickstart the ASEAN decision-making process. The senior officials meet to lay the discussion groundwork and agenda. It is where the intricacies of the topical agenda are discussed and where the areas of consensus are established. The appropriate senior official from the member states holding the ASEAN chairmanship shall chair each of the ASEAN SOM. Then, the decisions made as well as disputes or disagreements raised at that level would be surfaced to the ASEAN sectoral ministerial meeting. For example, using the topic of sustainability in the Mekong region. If it is getting intense as countries in the Mekong region are having different interests and concerns about the topic agenda, the senior officials can escalate this to the ministerial meeting level. Next slide. So, in speaking of the sectoral ministerial meeting, the outstanding matters that could not be resolved by the senior officials in SOMs will be surfaced for discussion here. Using again our previous example about the sustainability in the Mekong region, ministers can continue the discussion and debate about this. This will come the power and theories of negotiations. While having discussion and debate, you need to observe proper decorum and language. It might become intense and you might become emotional, but you must be diplomatic. You must have a proper decorum and polite all the time. This is why you need to apply your diplomatic skills. If one delegate is hard to convince, then try everything in your power to persuade that delegate, as consensus must be made at the end of the day. In that meeting, the draft chairman's statement will have already been mostly completed. So the objective of that meeting is to firm up everything in the remaining documents for the head of governments to adopt at the final ASEAN summit. Similar to SOM's ministerial meeting of the three pillars will be run concurrently. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so for ASEAN Community Council meeting, the appropriate minister from the member states holding the ASEAN chairmanship shall chair each ASEAN Community Council meeting. Community Council meeting of each pillar will also run concurrently, and the chairperson of each meeting must ensure that all 10 ASEAN representatives and their respective ASEAN Deputy Secretary General are present. So the Community Council will consolidate the draft chairman statements that were firmed up by the sectoral meetings, both at the senior official level and ministerial level. And this is the final stage where further decision making or dispute resolution can be conducted. No more chances for you to debate over substantive or major things later in the next meeting. Next slide. The ASEAN Coordinating Council meeting. As per Article 8 of the ASEAN Charter, the ASEAN Coordinating Council will be formed by ASEAN foreign ministers. If there is no assigned foreign minister, it will be the minister of the ASEAN Political Security Council. If you are the minister of the ASEAN Political Security Council, then you will be responsible in representing the national delegation of your country during the ASEAN Coordinating Council meeting. It will be carried out before the second ASEAN Summit, which is the closing ceremony, to coordinate the outcome and reports of the ASEAN Community Councils in preparation for the meetings of the closing ASEAN Summit. The objective of this meeting is to prepare the final consolidated chairman's statement for the head of government to review before they agree to sign on it. So in this meeting, It will act as meeting to initially review the proposals. You will be asked if you agree with the proposed paragraph. You can just answer yes or no. No more explanation, no more discussion, no more debate. Just yes or no. If the answer of the 10 foreign ministers is yes, then that will be passed and that will be considered for the signing in the closing ceremony. But if the certain paragraph will have will not have a unanimous decision, then it will not be passed in the closing ceremony. Next slide. So at the final ASEAN summit, the head of governments will do a final review of the chairman's statement, which had been prepared from the various prior meetings. As head of government, you will be asked if you agree with the proposed paragraph. Like what happened in the ACC meeting, you will be asked if you agree with the proposed paragraph or not. Like the ACC meeting, you can just answer yes or no. No more explanation, no more discussion, no more debate. Should there be no objections from any of the member states, the chairman's statement would be adopted by consensus at the closing ceremony portion of MAM's ASEAN Summit. Thereafter, there will be a signing ceremony where all head of governments will sign the ASEAN chairman's statement. This is followed by the signing ceremony, and then the head of government will stand together in the stage that you will have a photo session. You must be remembered that in holding hands during that photo session, you must put your right hands over your left hand. Next. Okay, so now that's the end of the first section of ASEAN 101. So this time I will give you a short break to digest what you have learned now.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing first. Okay, and thank you, Mr. Christopher. Um, so I would like to ask to everyone here. So how's the explanation? What's similar between MAM and MUN? Anyone?
They all involve negotiating and being able to be diplomatic.
Good job. Yes. And how about the difference? Anyone can help? What's so different between the MAM and MUN? One significant difference.
The MUN talks about the problems of the whole world, but the MAM talks about the problems in ASEAN.
All right. So yes, because that is closely related to the scope of the area. Okay. I would like to go deeper then. What's so different between the meeting? So within the meeting, what is so different between the meeting in MUN and the meeting in the MAM?
The difference in the meeting, I think it's as mentioned in the decision-making process in the MAM. The decision-making process is based on consensus building and always involved on making the decisions. But in the MUN, it's based on majority rules and votes.
Ah, that is so good. Wow. Thank you very much. Last question. Which one is more challenging when it comes to consensus and the one with voting?
MUN, uh, the solution will pass if they have the majority vote. But in ASEAN, you need to have all 10 of the countries vote. So it's I think it's pretty hard uh to make everyone studio, make everyone agree with the solution. Is that correct?
Well,
To to persuade
yes.
every 10 of the countries, all of the countries, all 10 of the.
Mm. Is it true, Mr. Chris? Hi, Sir Chris. What do you think?
Yes, sir. That's right.
For now, we're gonna have to take Mr. Chris' word for it, but we're gonna find out in next month how we're going to convince 10 countries to agree with what you have to say. Okay, thank you very much. We have a 15 minutes break, and I think Sir Chris promised us a game. Hi, Sir Chris, you promised us a game. Can we have that game, please? Okay, while waiting for Mr. Sir Chris to prepare that, um, it is important to note down that in every team there has to be three members, right? And those three members will be participating in the three councils. So you have the APSC, the AEC, and the sociocultural, so the SEC. And I would like to inform that starting from now, we can start looking at, gee, if I pass this, where should I be in? So that you will know later on where you're going to take part in. And yes, it's going to be done simultaneously. So all three of you will be doing the meeting all together with the documents that you have to prepare. So you will never come to the meeting empty handed. You have to do your research and find out more about the country that you represent. Hi, Sir Chris. While waiting for Mr. Chris, anyone who would like to ask regarding what Mr. Chris just shared with us? Maybe something that you need some clarification or confirmation? Please go ahead and ask.
I want to
Oh,
ask, sir.
yes. Don't forget to raise your hand. Raise your hand so
Yeah,
that we can
I'm raising
spotlight.
my hand. So, um, in ASEAN, you have to reach like a certain consensus where everybody is happy with the agreement. But has there ever been in history where um, a country is not really happy with the consensus?
Well, in the history of ASEAN summit, there is no such event where one certain country disagree at at the end of the ASEAN summit, because in that moment, in the ASEAN summit closing ceremony, the the declarations, the chairman's statement has already been polished and debated during the discussions of the different meetings. So in the history of ASEAN Summit, there's no such event. But in the AFMAM simulations in several universities, they had this experience of uh, simulating the AFMAM, and then at the end of the day, at the end of the simulation, one head of government will not agree, And so there will be no consensus and there will be no chairman's statement to be published. And you can also do that as long as you really don't like the policy recommendations in that chairman's statement.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chris.
It must be a bit challenging when uh, the minister do not agree with what is stated in the summit. But that's a very good question. Intriguing. Never happened, but yes, thank you for the information. Anyone else would like to ask a question? There are two. Woohoo, there are two participants. I'm gonna go with Renganis. Hi, Renganis. Go ahead.
Hi, sir. Can I ask you a question about the chairman in ASEAN? So I want to ask, does the chairman also change based on their period, such as president and others? And if so, does the MUN also change the chairman? Thank you, sir.
All right, that's a wonderful question. So, for your information, the assigned chairmanship is in a rotational basis, and you change the chairmanship each year. So it is an annual change. So in each year, you have the assigned chairman country, and for that assigned chairman country, you will nominate or you will have the representative from that country. So, for instance, last year, Indonesia hosted the ASEAN Summit, and because of that, the chairman of that is Indonesia, and the head the head of the chairmanship committee was Indonesian. And this time, the chairman is Lau PDR. It transitioned to Lau PDR. And so the chairman now is a national of Lau PDR. And to have more information about that, the ASEAN chairmanship has been conducted, the change of chairmanship has been conducted in alphabetical order. So last year was Indonesia, and now is Laos, and next year will be Malaysia, and in the next year after that, it should be Myanmar. But since there is an issue about it, so it was decided to skip Myanmar and proceed to the Philippines. So the Philippines will host the ASEAN Summit in 2026. And after that, it will be followed by the next country, which is Singapore, and so on.
Thank you for your answer, sir. I really appreciate it.
Right. Anyone else would like to ask? Oh, Ariella. Hi, Ariella. Oh, too bad you cannot turn on your camera. Hi, Ariella. Go ahead.
Hello. I would like to ask about the selection process since there's gonna be teams, three people, right? I want to ask if the score, the grading, the selection will be like per person individually or if it's per team. Thank you very much.
Woo, good question. I'm gonna answer it later. Right now, we're gonna focus on the guidelines first. I'm gonna tell you all about how the selection test will be at the end of the technical meeting because I would like to use the time for us to know a lot about this, and then you can start thinking about, do I want to join this or not, so that you can measure about it. And more importantly, I think yes, it is important that you need to take part in the meeting to become a part of the delegation and representing a country in the AFMAM. But more than that, because it's limited to only just 10 schools, and right now we have more than that. We have 50 something schools here right now. And I would like to say that it is important for us to also know about how ASEAN is about. We will be the young generations that will carry forward this ASEAN. How you want to shape it? Find out first from now. I'll just give one question then. Mr. Chris mentioned about we're gonna skip Myanmar. Okay, fine. Do you know why we skip Myanmar? Okay, raise your hand, guys. Oh, Edward. Hi, Mr. Edward. Oh, Queen also raised hand. Okay, I'm gonna go with Edward first. Queen, hold your thoughts. Go ahead, Mr. Edward.
Wait, so about Myanmar, it's because they got a coup, well, several years ago. So you can say the country is currently unstable.
So, Cope, unstable. I'm gonna keep that first. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Edward. I'm gonna ask to Queen. Hi, Queen Nathania.
Hello, sir. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Queen Natania. I'm from 47 High School, Jakarta. And I want to ask about what aspects are more prioritized when making a decision on an Asian summit issue. Thank you.
So Queen is not answering the question. You're asking another question. Okay, but okay, hold your thoughts first. Yes. Mr. Chris, we're gonna try to answer the first question, please. Why is Myanmar? And then we're gonna answer Miss Queen Nathanias.
Okay, so the first question, the ASEAN Secretariat and the other ASEAN member states decided to skip Myanmar to be the host in 2026 because of yeah, that's right, because of the coup reason. And it's also because of the human rights abuses happened under the military junta of Myanmar. And so the ASEAN like to have a sanction or punishment for Myanmar, they have decided to 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 block its hosting in 2026, and also it also forces the Myanmar government, the current Myanmar government, to agree to the decision of the ASEAN member states to have and to observe justice and exchanging, like the exchanging of the government because of what happened before in the past, in the recent past, that the change of government has not been followed in a democratic way, and a lot of abuses, not just from the previous administration, but also to the people who are protesting. So because of that, uh, the ASEAN Secretariat and the leaders of other ASEAN member states uh, want the Myanmar government to follow first the framework that they have conducted to be to be enforced in Myanmar. But because Myanmar didn't agree on that certain framework, then they don't have any choice but to not host the ASEAN Summit 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chris. And Queen was asking something. Hi, Miss Queen. Can you repeat that again?
Okay, sir. So I'm asking about what aspects are most prioritized when making a decision on an Asian summit issue.
Okay, so what aspect? Basically, the answer is the collective interest of the ASEAN region. But it is hard to it is hard uh, to achieve that the collective interest because setting that aside, we have our own national interest. We know we have a lot of differences, we have a lot of perspectives, and we have a lot of differences in economic, geopolitical, and foreign policy. So, because of that, some issues are hard to tackle, even though we can have that issues tackled like right now, so that we can have peace and security in in our region. Like for example, the issue of the South China Sea. Uh, don't you know that up until now there is no like a certain framework that all ASEAN member states agreed because some ASEAN member states have bilateral relations with China, and some countries in ASEAN regions have their own national interest in the South China Sea, especially claiming its sovereignty in its EEZ. Because of that, in in the previous ASEAN summit, they don't have like a consensus regarding that matter.
Thank you, sir.
Very good question. Thank you, Miss Queen Natania. So there is actually a part where the ASEAN country members don't actually agree on something. Interesting. Anyone else would like to ask a question? Oh, we have Kia. Hi, Kia. Can you turn the camera so we can spot you out?
Okay, hi, my name is Kia. I'm from 57 Senior High School. Here, I would like to ask a little more deeply about the agreement at M, where there was a lot of discussion about the agreement, even at the meeting in 78 High School. The agreement I meant was the agreement will not contain or consent of chairman statement will not publish if one country do not agree to the argument to the agreement, right? Well, I'm kind of curious about the problem solving that will be carried out on, and also who will convince the country that do not uh, agree with the agreement. Maybe that's all. Thank you very much.
Oh yes. Who should do that? Yeah, thank you very much. So,
Yeah.
Sir Chris,
Thank you.
who should do it, Sir Chris?
Okay,
Like what to do?
okay, so basically in that issue, it will be the same. The ASEAN member state leaders who will do that. But maybe this is not yet the right time because we need to consider that each country has its own sovereignty and national interest, and we need to respect that. And that is one of the ASEAN ways and ASEAN value. We have the notion of non-interference. So if one country doesn't want this proposal, this proposition, then we have to respect that in the ASEAN level. So if a certain issue will not be solved in this ASEAN summit, then other countries, other ASEAN member states can bring that again next year and after 2 years, after 3 years, until we have the decision, the consensus decision regarding that matter.
Wow. So imagine
Thank
that,
you very
everyone.
much.
If one country doesn't agree, then we have to respect that. If only we could do that in our family. But anyways, we have another question. Hi, Valerisa, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Is my voice clear?
Crystal clear.
Yes.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. My name is Fairisa Azahra. I'm from 78 Senior High School. And I want to ask, based on your perspective, uh, how can ASEAN adapt to the challenges and opportunities presented by the Fourth Industrial Revolution and climate change?
That's
My
all. Thank you,
God.
sir.
Thank you very much, Marisa.
Thank you.
Okay, so regarding that issue, right now the ASEAN Secretariat and the 10 ASEAN member states are doing their best to tackle that issue, to tackle about the fourth industrial revolution, to to have the transition to the fourth industrial revolution, especially now that we are currently experiencing the transition to AI, to 5Gs, robotics, and cloud computing. So now we are conducting and making a lot of frameworks regarding e-commerce, everything about AI, cybersecurity, and so on. And regarding about climate change, uh, yes, through the different uh, ASEAN bodies and agencies, we are conducting to solve the issue of climate change and environmental protection, especially the uh, risk disaster risk reduction and management. So for that, through the ASEAN summit, we are solving that to yeah to solve and to catch up with the dynamics of our planet. Thank you.
The answer, sir.
Wow, thank you very much. We also have three more. Wow. Feel like we're gonna be answering questions now before we go more forward. Okay, so these are the last three questions, okay, guys? Because after that, Mr. Christopher will have to go and continue again. Hi again, Andrea. The floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And I am really sorry for my camera because I have technical issues about it. And is my voice clear?
Yes, clear.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I want to ask about what kind of issue that actually might be receivable by the chairman. Thank you.
Receivable. Huh. Okay.
Sorry, what was the word?
Oh, okay. I will repeat the question again. What kind of issue that might be receivable by the chairman? Thank you.
Receivable.
Yes.
Receivable.
Okay, so yeah, it all depends on the chairman and the chairman country. So if your country has this foreign policy and national interest, of course, when you are the host in the ASEAN summit, you want your national interest to be promoted in that level. So, as a chairman, you have that power of persuasion to lead what topics, what certain issues that you want to be presented and uh, to have a certain framework to be established. So yes, you have that persuasion of power, and at the same time, you also need to consider having allies and coalition because whether you want this to be discussed in that certain meeting of ASEAN summit, as long as other ASEAN member states don't want it, then it's still it's still up to the representatives and head of governments of each ASEAN member state.
Okay. Thank you very much for the answer, Mr. Christopher.
Yes. Okay. Then we have the last. Oh, now we have only Mr. Muhammad Ghazi. Hi, Mr. Muhammad Ghazi.
Hello, sir. Okay. I want to ask again. Um, so recently, East Timor just got accepted, but like it was 2 years ago, but I counted as recent. Um, and turns out they were applying ever since 2011. So that's like a 11-year gap. So what my question is, what is the procedural of a country to be accepted by ASEAN? Thank you.
Okay, so regarding the issue of East Timor or Timor-Leste, uh, yes, during the 2022 ASEAN Summit, they have been accepted as an, you can say it, not so official member of ASEAN member states. And for now, since, like since since the last decade, they got accepted as the observer of the ASEAN, and through that they need to know the ASEAN way, the how the ASEAN diplomacy works, and of course, they have in ASEAN region we have that certain fees. We also have that fees similar to the other institutions like the UN, the World Bank, the IMF. So we also need to consider about their economies if they can sustain to be the member of this international organization, and also other ASEAN member states need to need to accept them wholeheartedly. But because some ASEAN member states are hesitating to accept them in in the ASEAN, then it's hard for them to get accepted, and they need to work hard because since the year where when they got accepted as an observer, they are having a hard time, or they are struggling to persuade several countries like, let's say, Singapore, because we also need to consider that in the ASEAN region we have some countries that in need of uh, aids and funding. So those countries that are currently receiving those aid and fundings, uh, if by chance East Timor will get accepted, then be they will be having a hard time to receive the same or the equal amount of what they are receiving right now. So that also has been taken into consideration by those countries. But fortunately, Indonesia as well as the Philippines and some countries in ASEAN region are open to accept Timor Leste to be part of the ASEAN region. And maybe soon we can have the 11th member of ASEAN region.
Thank you, Mr. Christopher, for the answer.
And of course, the last one, Miss Alamanda, and after that, we're going to continue. Okay, go ahead, Miss Alamanda.
Okay. Hello. Good evening. So I'm going to ask a question. What Asian values are actually needed from the discussion through the Asian Summit? Thank you.
Okay, so
Okay,
if
so
we get it correctly, Asian values in the ASEAN Summit, is that correct?
Yes. Oh my God.
all right, so we have these values that must be followed during the ASEAN summit and during the simulation of AFMAM, like the respect for sovereignty or independence. We also have the value of non-interference. So if they don't agree, then we respect that. We also have the aspect of equality. So it means each ASEAN member state is equal with each other, and we have the integrity, and at the same time we have uh, the ASEAN way, which is uh, the ASEAN way, the notion that we must embrace the values of tolerance and moderation, as well as upholding the ASEAN, the ASEAN fundamentals to achieve our shared destiny, our shared goals, and our shared values.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right. I think we're gonna cut the Q&A session first. We're going to continue with Mr. Christopher's presentation. Hi, Mr. Christopher. We shall continue then. The floor is yours.
Okay, sir. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the different roles in MAM. So it's important for you to know the different roles and organs in MAM. So the organs involved in the MAM simulation are the organizing committee and the national delegation. The organizing committee are the ASEAN Secretariat, which is composed of Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General, and the ASEAN National Secretariat. For the national delegation, it's you, the delegates, the head of government, senior officials, ministers, and foreign ministers. Next slide. So you can see, as you can see in this chart, you have the organizing committee setup, the secretary general, the deputy secretary general, and then the national secretariat representative from the ASEAN chairmanship committee. And then you have the national delegation set up. Next slide. Okay, so let's talk about the ASEAN Secretariat, or the ASEC. The ASEC upholds the rules and procedures agreed upon and reflected in the Article 11 of the ASEAN Charter. In the MAM, the organizing committee members will play the role of this organ. Leading the team will be the Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General, and they will include preparing the academic content for the MAM, the everything about the logistical aspects, the external relation management, and the event management of the whole activity. Next slide. Next is the ASEAN National Secretariat. At every meeting, at both senior official and ministerial levels, drafting of the final report shall be the responsibility of the ASEAN Secretariat with the assistance of the ASEAN National Secretariat. So the ASEC will craft the chairman's statement that will be submitted to you, especially for the heads of government, for approval and adoption. Typically, the ASEAN National Secretariat is established by the chair country, the chairman country. In MAM, the ASEAN National Secretariat is responsible for taking notes from the meetings and helping the ASEC to draft and revise the chairman's statement. Next slide. And for the ASEAN chairmanship, uh, for this year, I believe Lao PDR will be the chairman. So during that time in your AFMAM simulation, the Lao PDR will be the ASEAN chairman. And the nature of the ASEAN chairmanship is such that the country it represents and its delegation will function as the chair across the entire MAM. The ASEAN chairman will be representing the interest of its national delegation and the regional association. So it will be a little hard for the ASEAN chairman. So those who will be assigned as a part of the delegation of Lao PTR You must balance the roles as the chairman and as a national delegate. I mean, like you must not just facilitate, but also give and share your own national country's position on the issue being discussed and debated. Given this due representation as the chair, you must indicate if you are speaking in the capacity of chair or on behalf of your country. For instance, if you are the delegate of the Lao PDR, you will be the chair in your assigned meeting. You can be you can preface your statement by saying the chair is now speaking as the delegate of Lao PDR and then mention your statement. And next is the delegate of Lao PDR is now acting as the chair of the meeting and then facilitate again. As the chair, you have the three responsibilities. You need to chair and facilitate the ASEAN meetings for the year. Second is to be the spokesperson for ASEAN and all its 10 member states. And last is to define the agenda and propose new initiatives to advance regional cooperation. Next slide. In addition, you have the discretion over the proceedings of the meetings. You will also be responsible for calling on the speakers to discuss the topic and the chairman's statement. You will be the facilitator of the meetings to ensure that consensus on the topical agenda is built through diplomacy and tact. So you will be observing the delegates. And as the ASEAN chairman, you have the following procedures that can be used during meetings to further negotiations and or resolve any disagreement or negotiation impasse. You can have impose a suspension of meeting, a mediation, a retreat, or an escalation, but it has to be agreed by all 10 ASEAN member states. Anything that you do during the meetings or the session, it has to be approved or agreed by all ASEAN member states. Next slide. Next is the national delegation. So delegates are responsible for representing the national interest of the member state that they represent. The ASEAN chairman is likewise represented by the national delegation holding the chairmanship. So as the national as part of the national delegation, you need to you need to you need to research comprehensively about the position of the country that you are assigned with. For example, if you are assigned as a representative of Vietnam, then you must know and you must research more information about the stance and position of Vietnam regarding some issues such as renewable energy, South China Sea issue, the Mekong region issue, and so on. So, as part of the national delegation team, you need to really work hard on researching and to, as they said, this is role playing, this is acting. So, you really need to uh, internalize the character as a representative of that certain country. Next slide. So, there is senior officials. This is the first role to partake in the Model ASEAN meeting because they're going to perform their duties first as the senior official meeting will take place first after the opening ceremony. Then for the senior officials, you have to lay the necessary groundwork and agenda for discussion. You should present your country's position on the issue and discuss the intricacies of the topical agenda. However, you must seek out areas of consensus. For example, I'm the senior official of Thailand for the economic pillar, and I want tourism to be the focus of the issue for economic recovery. I might encounter other officials that are unable to deal with as they do not have the mandate from their country to make decisions about tourism, or tourism is not just their priority in the moment. As a senior official, I do not have the ability to change my country's stance during negotiations. So I will always bring up the topic of tourism in the discussion and debate with other senior officials. I will encourage them, give them statistics and reports, tell them why tourism is crucial at this time in the ASEAN region and so on until it reaches the consensus. However, if still other countries do not accept that proposition, then then you don't have anything to do. You just have to let that proposition go. Next is, yeah, in MAM, in order for a clause, an idea to pass or to be included in the chairman's statement, it requires all member states' votes. As I said, in case one or few countries disagree with you, you have to do negotiation. You have to perform your diplomatic skills to approach them, to encourage them, to so that they will agree upon what your country believes in. And any disputes or disagreements that cannot be dealt at this level would then be surfaced to the ministerial meeting. So if that issue of tourism cannot be resolved at this at the senior official meetings, you can pass it to your minister so that the minister will tackle this and will bring it up again in the next meeting. Next slide. So the ministers will meet in the sectoral ministerial meetings to follow up on the discussions put forward from the senior officials. So the ministers can have more latitude in their negotiations with their ASEAN counterparts and can make policy decisions for their country. This meeting is more substantive because you really need to convince the other delegations to consider your proposal. So it will be brought up again in the community council meeting and coordinating council meeting. And this will be the last chance for your national delegation to propose some recommendations because in the next meeting, in the community council meeting, you cannot add words or paragraphs anymore. You can only give an alternative paragraphs. Next slide. And then for the foreign ministers, you are responsible in representing your national delegation during the ASEAN Coordinating Council meeting. And you are the main figure in coordinating a member state's foreign policy. In case there is no assigned foreign minister in your national delegation, then the minister representing the ASEAN Political Security Community Council will be the foreign minister. But of course, if the organizers do not have the ASEAN Coordinating Council meeting, then there will be no foreign minister and there will be no additional role for the minister of the ASEAN Political Security Community Council of a particular country. Next. Next, for the head of government, you, as self-explanatory, you are the lead delegate of uh, the government of each ASEAN member state. And then you will have to present an opening speech at the beginning, and then you will also need to have a closing speech at the end. And then you will have at the before the ASEAN summit signing, you will have, yeah, the power to agree or not to certain proposition. Next. Okay, for now, I would like to give you a 15 minutes short break to digest everything you have learned in your brain. And also, since I cannot open my uh, games, I will just ask you those questions.
Yes, shoot, Mr. Chris. Let's give it away.
All right. You can just raise your hand, your virtual hand, if you want to answer. So, okay, first question. What does ASEAN stand for? Okay, yes, Luna.
Association of Southeast.
All right. So
Korean nation,
ASEAN,
Southeast Korean nation.
ASEAN stands for Association of Southeast Asian Nations.
I said it till the end, but I think it got cut off.
Okay, so next question. Currently, how many member states are in ASEAN? Yes, Azkira?
There are 10 members of ASEAN, and there are Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Vietnam, Myanmar, Laos, Brunei Darussalam, and Cambodia.
Okay, next question. In what year was ASEAN founded?
1000. I forgot to raise my hand. Sorry.
Okay, so Attila.
Yes, sir.
In what year
Asian was
was
founded
ASEAN
on
founded?
the. Oh, sorry. Is my voice clear?
Sorry?
Yes. So, ASEAN is founded on the 8th of August, 1967.
That's right. So ASEAN was founded on August 8, 1967. Then my next question is, where was ASEAN founded? Okay, so the first one is Gyanandra.
Okay, so ASEAN was founded in Bangkok, Thailand.
That's right. So ASEAN was founded in August 8, 1967 in Bangkok, Thailand. So my next question would be, which document established ASEAN's principles and values? So I will give choices. Bangkok Declaration, Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, ASEAN Charter, or ASEAN Summit Agreement. Okay, so the first one is Gyanandra again.
Is it the Bangkok Declaration?
Are you sure?
Oh wait, no, sorry. It's the ASEAN, the ASEAN meeting,
Okay,
the
so the
last
choices
choice.
are Bangkok Declaration, Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, ASEAN Charter, ASEAN Summit Agreement.
Yes, ASEAN Summit Agreement.
Well, it's not the right answer. How about Rania?
Oh, thank you for the recognition. Is it the Asian Charter?
Yes, that's right. As I said in the presentation, the ASEAN Charter is the document established the ASEAN's principles and values. It is like the constitution of the ASEAN. Okay, next. Which ASEAN member state is the smallest in terms of land area? Yes, Aiko?
Singapore.
Yes, that's right. The smallest in terms of land area is Singapore. Okay, for the ASEAN Summit, it is held how many times a year? Okay, Muhammad Gosi,
2 times a year.
how many?
2 times a year.
Yep, that's right. So the ASEAN Summit is held 2 times a year. Okay, for another question, where was the first ASEAN Summit held? I'll give you choices. Bangkok, Thailand, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Bali, Indonesia, Manila, Philippines. Okay, Rengani?
Yes, sir. The answer is Bali, Indonesia.
Yeah, that's right. So, as one of the founding members of the ASEAN, Indonesia had the chance to be the first host of the ASEAN summit. So, it was held in Bali, Indonesia. Next, which ASEAN country has the largest population? Muhammad, Muhammad Ghazi.
Indonesia.
Yeah, that's right. It's your country, Indonesia. Okay, last question. Which ASEAN member state is the only landlocked country? Rania?
Laos.
Yep, that's right. Laos is the only ASEAN member state that is landlocked.
Okay, so that's a very good question, and very good quiz. The last question was very tricky. I thought it would be Bangkok, but apparently it's in Bali. Thank you very much for the information.
Yes.
Right now, we're gonna continue again. Mr. Christopher, are you ready for the next slide?
Okay, sir. I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, now let's talk about the MAM rules of procedure, the rules and protocols during the meeting. Next slide. Okay, so as you can see in the diagram, there are 5 steps in the flow of process in MAM. First is research and preparation. Next is speeches, then negotiation, resolution, and action. Next slide. Okay, so research and preparation. Firstly, you need to gain a sufficient understanding of ASEAN and its goals, the MAM process, the MAM rules of procedure, and the process of drafting the chairman's statement. An understanding of these rules and processes will ensure that you understand the ASEAN lingo and the ASEAN way, and more importantly, be comfortable with speaking and working in MAM. Secondly, you should have a good understanding about the topical agenda that you will be engaging with during the simulation. As you would have received information on your roles and the topical agenda, it is important for you to conduct research to better understand the topics. You should understand the concept and situation of the global issue as well as the regional issue of the ASEAN that you are presented with, how this issue is applied within the regional context. What are some steps that ASEAN has done previously to deal with these issues, and what are some challenges that ASEAN would face in dealing with this issue? So, in researching, you also need to research about the previous results of the previous ASEAN summits, not just the position of your country, the stance of your country, as well as the stance of other countries. You also need to uh, take into consideration whether your solution, your recommendation has been done before in the ASEAN context. So your solution, your proposed solution will not be redundant and will not be go against the the already established framework and policy of the ASEAN. So next is you need to prepare for the MAM by researching your country and the role that you are allocated. You need to understand the issues, the country's perspectives and interests, and understand how you roll the MAM process. So it's imperative for you to research into your country's and ministry's policies, be be supported by the facts and statistics and data so that you can have a good understanding of the policy making process. And also for the preparation of the position papers and delegation strategy papers, you need to properly work in writing those papers so that you can have a good consolidation of your delegation. And it's also essential to get discussion during the meeting. So you need to have an independent research prior to the simulation. You would receive background guides from the organizers, and it will provide you with the fundamental information in the agendas and the topics. However, it is also important for you to, to conduct your own research. As I said, you need to make a research regarding the previous frameworks of the ASEAN, your country's position, as well as some research and theses and articles regarding certain topics. So it will promote your critical thinking, researching skill, and analytical skill. And on the long run, it will develop you to be a stronger, a responsible, and a critical ASEAN youth. Next, please. Okay, so for the position paper, prior to the simulation, the organizer, there is no fixed structure on how position papers should be written. Some delegates choose to submit their position papers in prose, like in paragraph points. Some prefer to present their ideas in bullet points, and others choose to do it with a mix of both methods. As the position paper, it is meant to provide a clear outline of your stance, your country's stance on the topical agenda. And it is important that the position paper is written in a clear and concise manner. And a good position paper should provide the reader with an understanding of your country's position and policies based on the topical agenda. And you, through your position paper, must suggest ideas, solutions, and proposals that your country can offer regarding the issue. So you must present relevant government policies, laws, statistics, and facts to legitimize your position. Next. For a strategy paper, it would be an add-on to your position papers. So it is meant solely for the purposes of your national delegation's consumption. So if the position paper is individual, the strategy paper is for the group, for the national delegation group. It would be between 2 to 3 pages in length. Every delegation should only produce one, as this would be the guiding document for the delegation during the MAM. It should be clearly identify what the country's core objectives, interests, and ideas are, and it should also emphasize what the country aims to achieve from the simulation. An excellent strategy paper would entail and detail how the delegation would seek to achieve your aims, your objectives, and have a well thought out process of the areas that can be negotiated and areas that are strictly non negotiable. So, for example, in your strategy paper, in this topic, in this certain topic, you can list down which countries, which ASEAN member states are your allies and which are not your allies, so that during the simulation, you will know who you should be working with and who or which countries do you need to persuade. So in writing a strategy paper, there is no fixed structure on how position papers and strategy papers should be written. This is only meant for your national delegation's use. So this document is like your national delegation outline. So each minister should have a copy of this. So during the simulation, you will have uh, you will have a background on how you will debate, on how you will have the organic discussion going on uh, smoothly, since during that time the head of government may not be able to work with you. Next. Okay, so public speaking. Public speaking is an important skill at the MAM, and as a delegate, it will enable you to present your member states' positions, help build consensus, and formulate resolutions. Although speaking is an important part of any MAM activities, many delegates fear speaking in front of a large group. The best way to cope with these fears is to be well prepared. And here are some suggestions on the speeches. So you need to prepare, practice, consider your target audience, eliminate unnecessary filler words, use meaningful pauses, pace yourself, choose a powerful posture, project presence, gesture, connect with the audience, get to the point, and be positive. And you must also remember that the working language of MAM shall be English. So you need to be working on with your English speaking skill. And besides from that, you must use third person personal pronouns and avoid first person personal pronouns. So, as a delegate of a certain country, if you want to speak, you should say at least the delegate of this country or this delegate would like to propose this clause. This will help you to maintain professionalism and objectivity because in MAM you are simulating, so you will not talk about your personal opinion but the position of your country. So since you are the delegate of that certain country, you can use this delegate or the delegate of this country, or you can just mention the name of the country. So it will foster a clarity and consistency in communication among delegates, ensuring that the statements and positions are conveyed in a unified and respectful manner. Next slide. Okay, so you need to remember the ASEAN way. It is the guiding philosophy behind how ASEAN operates and how ASEAN member states interact with one another. You should use these opportunities to present ideas and solutions for the chairman's statement, or discuss about the role that ASEAN, NGOs, or other multilateral organizations can play in addressing the issue. Encourage collaboration among member states by proposing ways that the delegates' countries would be willing to work with other member states. You can reference what other delegates have said to show support for their points. Alternatively, you should voice disagreement if your country doesn't support what the other delegate has mentioned. Next slide. So the objective of the MAM is the writing and negotiation of the chairman's statements. The ASEAN chair would take the lead in drafting the statement, but would have to do it based on the consultation and consensus of the other member states. The chair drafts the statement with the administrative support of the ASEAN Secretariat delegates, and it will involve themselves to process the drafting and amendment of the draft statement at the discretion of the ASEAN chairman. Regardless of the origin, the ASEAN sectoral senior official meetings must first agree through consensus before the draft statements can be used as the basis for a formal debate. And the draft statements would then be discussed at the ministerial level. And then any dispute that cannot be resolved will be bumped into the higher level of discussion, which is the ministerial meeting. And the process of revision would be repeated during the meeting if there will be unresolved disagreements or impasse. And then again, if there are still unresolved disagreements, it would be resurfaced to the ASEAN Coordinating Council meeting. And again, if there are still outstanding disagreements that cannot be resolved at the Coordinating Council meeting, it would be surfaced to be resolved at the ASEAN Summit, which is facilitated by the head of government of each ASEAN member states. And again, if there's still outstanding disagreement, it's fine. But at the end of that, you will not have a signing ceremony because one or few head of governments don't agree with the chairman's statements. So as you can see, the process of drafting a chairman's statement is a long process, but it is meant to be inclusive and must be agreed upon by all member states. So if one country disagree, then we respect that. So for that, you should create a detailed resolution. For example, if a chairman's statement calls for a new program, think about how it will be funded and what body will manage it. And you should be realistic. Do not create objectives or recommendations that the chairman's statement cannot be met. Next slide. So during the simulation, you need to dress professionally and appropriately, as this is an important aspect of the simulation. Just like being polite and having proper manners, dressing appropriately is an important way to show respect for the member state you are representing, for fellow delegates, and for ASEAN as a whole. At some meetings, delegates may wear their own national dress. However, most meetings will require formal attire or business attire. Next, please. Okay, so as you will become the delegates of ASEAN member states, you need to be familiar in the flag and emblem of ASEAN and also the ASEAN anthem. To raise the awareness of ASEAN identity, you are encouraged to be familiar with the ASEAN flag and the emblem to be used in ASEAN related functions. So again, also for the ASEAN anthem, it is encouraged to be played in all ASEAN related activities such as formal meetings, like the opening ceremony of the ASEAN summit, also uh, yeah, at the closing ceremony. So in singing the anthem, the ASEAN anthem, all person present must rise when the ASEAN anthem is performed. Next slide. The language. The negotiations are conducted mainly in English, so it is essential for you to appreciate accurate terminology used during the simulation. You need to be cautious with wording. You must not offend other representative of ASEAN member states. And changing one word can change the meaning of a whole text. So it is helpful to read every word and consider the context and how sentences and paragraphs relate to each other. Next slide. Amending the chairman's statement. When the committee is done with its deliberations, the chair would call for a review of the draft statement. The amendments would take place paragraph by paragraph. At the paragraph where delegates want to make any amendments, they should be acknowledged by the chair before making their amendments. The delegate will either A. Verbally indicate the amendments if it is a minor amendment, or B. Submit a written amendment if it is a major amendment. The ASEC delegate will key in the amendment, and the amendment will be indicated in brackets, and the proposer of the amendment would be indicated in parentheses. So this will be the work of the ASEC delegate. Next slide. And if there are no objections to the amendment, it will pass and become part of the text. If there are objections, the amendment is put on hold and the committee can discuss the amendment after the review. This process will take place again when the chair calls for a review of the draft statement. Next slide. Okay, so here are the different types of amendment that you can do in MAM. You can delete or replace words, delete or move paragraph, propose an alternate paragraph, merge paragraphs, retain original language, add words or a new paragraph. You can do any types of amendment in the senior official meeting and ministerial meeting. However, in ASEAN Community Council meeting, you will not be able to add words or add a new paragraph. In ASEAN Coordinating Council meeting and ASEAN Summit, there are no more amendments allowed because in these meetings, the delegate will just vote for yes or no. Next slide. Okay, so here are the samples dialogue for the simulation. For example, if you are the delegate of Indonesia, you can say, this delegate would like to delete the phrase fiscal policy in paragraph 1. And then the ASEAN Secretariat delegate will write it down or will type it in laptop with this format, parenthesis, Indonesia, then bracket, delete fiscal policy in paragraph 1. Next, love PDR. This delegate wants to replace call upon with oblige in paragraph 2. And then the ASEC will write or type down parenthesis love PDR bracket replace call upon with oblige in paragraph 2. And then if you want to delete some paragraphs, you can say this delegate proposes to delegate to delete paragraph, certain paragraph. Then as for example, Brunei wants to delete paragraph 3. And then the ASEC will write parenthesis Brunei, then bracket delete paragraph 3. Next is Singapore would like to propose alternative to paragraph 4 with we call upon ASEAN member states to uphold the rule of law on this issue. And then the ASEC will write down parenthesis Singapore bracket propose alternative to paragraph 4 with we call upon ASEAN member states to uphold the rule of law on this issue. And if you want to move a sub clause, you can say this delegate wants to move subclause A of paragraph 5 under paragraph 6. And then the ASIC will write parenthesis Vietnam bracket move subclause A of paragraph 5 under paragraph 6. And then that subclause will be moved to paragraph 6. Next slide. So negotiation in MAM. Now we're diving into the art of making deals, finding compromises, and reaching agreements in the context of the Model ASEAN meeting. Negotiation isn't just about getting what you want, it's about finding common ground, making trade offs, and striking a balance that benefits everyone involved. So it is not just about prioritizing your national interest, but also the collective efforts that ASEAN region wants to establish. So next. So in accordance with Article 20 of the ASEAN Charter, the primary mode of decision making in ASEAN is consultation and consensus. Known as the ASEAN Way, this philosophy and tradition ensures that ASEAN initiatives have the full support of its member states, its all member states. It also ensures that no member states feel disadvantaged from its participation in ASEAN. During meetings, all substantive decisions should be made by consensus. The chair has direction over procedural issues. However, the chair should make this decision in consultation and consensus with other member states. Any dispute can also be surfaced to the next higher level of meeting for resolution, with the chair calling for an escalation. Then the chairman's statement should be adopted by consensus from all 10 ASEAN member states. If consensus cannot be reached, the ASEAN Charter provides for the ASEAN Summit to decide on an alternative method of decision making, or else there will be no chairman's statement at the end, and you will just need to wait for another year to tackle that at the next ASEAN Summit. Next.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the ASEAN way. This isn't just some catchy phrase, it's the guiding philosophy behind how ASEAN operates and how ASEAN member states interact with one another. Picture this: you've got a group of friends planning a road trip. Everyone's got their own ideas about where to go and how to get there. Now, instead of one person calling all the shots, the group sits down, talks it out, and finds a plan that works for everyone. That's basically the ASEAN way in action, and peaceful negotiation is very crucial. Whether you're brokering a peace deal between warring nations or just trying to decide on something, negotiation is the key to finding common ground and getting what you want. Negotiation is at the heart of diplomacy, and in AFMAM, it's a skill that puts to the test. Imagine you're representing, uh, let's say, the Philippines, discussing regional economic cooperation. Your country aims to promote sustainable development while safeguarding its domestic industries. As a skilled negotiator, you prepare thoroughly by analyzing the economic interests of other member states, such as Vietnam's focus on agricultural exports and Singapore's emphasis on financial services. During the negotiation, you actively listen to the concerns of your counterparts and propose a compromise that incentivizes green investments while ensuring fair competitions for all ASEAN nations. Let's say we're in the middle of the simulation and tension starts to rise between two member states over a territorial dispute. Instead of resorting to finger pointing or aggression, ASEAN principles encourage dialogue and peaceful resolution. It's all about finding common ground and moving forward together peacefully. ASEAN's key principle is peaceful resolution of disputes. Think of it as a talk it out policy. For instance, you've got two friends arguing what flavor of cake should they bake. Instead of escalating into a full-blown feud, they sit down over coffee and find a compromise. And then they compromise to bake a marble cake, which satisfies both of their cravings and makes them both happy. And that's the power of negotiations. That is the magic word, compromise. So it's not about giving up everything you want, but rather finding a middle ground that meets everyone's needs. Compromise requires flexibility, creativity, and a willingness to meet halfway. That's the spirit of the ASEAN way, keeping the peace through dialogue and understanding. So we have the notion of non-interference, as it is connected to the mushawara and mufakat, which means consultation and consensus respectively. It's the golden rule of ASEAN. I'm sure you all have your own family house, right? So you decide how to decorate it, what furniture to buy, and who to invite over. Similarly, your neighbor has their own house too. And they got to make their own decisions how to run it. Just like you wouldn't barge into your neighbor's house and rearrange their furniture without their permission. ASEAN members don't meddle in each other's business. That's the principle of sovereignty. The idea that each nation has the right to govern itself without external interference. It's like having your own space where you call the shots and make the rules. Why is this principle so important in model ASEAN meetings? Imagine you're participating where the agenda includes sensitive topics like territorial disputes or human rights issues. Non-interference ensures that each participant can engage in discussions freely without feeling like their sovereignty is being undermined. Sovereignty ensures that each participant can advocate for their country's interest without fear of outside interference or pressure. For example, let's say the case of Thailand. Don't you know that Thailand legalized the use of marijuana? And of course, other ASEAN member states viewed it as illegal and against the norms. So let's say the Thailand government wants that topic to be raised in ASEAN summit. Of course, many countries will not allow it as it is against their principle, and also it is against their constitution. So by upholding the principle of non-interference, MAM create a level of playing field where all participants can express their views and negotiate in good faith. This will foster mutual respect, trust, and cooperation, which are the key ingredients for successful diplomacy and conflict resolution. Next. So here are some key points in MAM negotiation. Negotiation plays a crucial role in MAM as delegates work together to reach consensus and formulate resolutions, particularly in drafting the chairman's statement. So first, you need to set targets and goals. You need to establish clear objectives and targets you aim to achieve during the simulation. And these goals should align with the interest and your priorities as a representative of a certain country. Next is strategy development. You need to devise or make a strategy to achieve your targets and objectives. This involves identifying potential allies, which will be your friend during that simulation, and then support your agenda points and determine how to engage with countries that will oppose your goal. Next is handling disagreements. You need to present proposals and counter proposals to address the issue at hand. So, in preparing for your position paper, you also need to consider the counter arguments that the other ASEAN member states will throw at you during the simulation. So that will help you to know how to respond during the simulation. Next is compromise and flexibility. In negotiation, it involves give and take. You may need to be prepared to make concessions during the negotiation process to secure agreement on key issues. Knowing what can be sacrificed without compromising your national interest. And remember, negotiation emphasizes consensus building in MAM. Next is constructive critique and alternatives. Rather than outright criticism, we should provide constructive feedback on opposing viewpoints. As I said earlier, you should respect other delegates. You should not use bad words or any foul language. You need to offer alternatives and support uh, counter arguments and your arguments with evidence that will help build consensus and facilitate productive negotiations. Next is understand rules of procedure. You need to be familiar with the rules of procedure outlined in my presentation, as during discussions and debates, it will help you to ensure a structured and orderly negotiation process. Next is the involvement in drafting process. You can actively participate in the drafting and amending the chairman's statement. And any unresolved disputes are escalated to higher levels of discussions for resolutions. If, as I said again, if there is no resolutions that have been attained through consensus, then you need to respect it. Next slide. Okay, so I want you to know this concept, the ZOPA, or also known as the Zone of Possible Agreement. Zone of Possible Agreement, or ZOPA, represents the range of options where an agreement can be reached that is acceptable to both parties or countries. ZOPA is also sometimes referred to as the bargaining range or bargaining zone. Think of ZOPA as the space where both sides can agree on something. Imagine you and your friend want to trade books. So you like each other's book. You both have different favorite books, but if you find a trade that makes both of you happy, that's your sopa. And during the Model ASEAN meeting, you'll need to figure out this space where all countries can agree on something that works for everyone. So, in the case example of books, let's say you with your friends want to buy a book for your group. Let's say you have an assignment regarding book analysis. So you and your friends, or let's say your classmates, have different tastes in choosing a book. So this is where you will talk and brainstorm so that you can have the ZOPA, or the situation where you all agree that this certain book will be used by your group. And now let's talk about the next concept. Next slide, please. So BATNA, which stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement, is a concept coined by negotiation scholars Roger Fisher and William Ury in their book Getting to Yes. Let's say you want to swap a book with your friend, but they don't want to trade. If you have another friend who also wants to trade, or if you can enjoy the book yourself, that's your BATNA. Knowing your BATNA helps you negotiate better because you know you have other options if things don't work out. So it is another term for backup plan. So in negotiation during the simulation of AFMAM, you need to have backup plan. Like, for example, if you're representing the Philippines or Indonesia and you want to work with other countries to fight piracy in the sea and oceans, but they are not interested. For example, Lao PDR is not interested in that topic because they don't have sea or ocean because they are a landlocked country. So what is the use of that issue in their national interest? Right? Nothing. Hence, to persuade Lao PDR to discuss that issue, you can you can discuss the same idea about fighting piracy with other ideas that is under the national interest of Lao PTR, such as fighting sea piracy, because sea piracy uh, will is connected to the problems of let's say security, and by sharing information or helping build better security in this way, even though your first idea didn't get the approval of Lao PDR, it might get the chance to persuade them. So in ASEAN, decisions need everyone's agreement. So let's say you're in a group project at school and everyone has to agree on the final project. If even one person disagrees, the project doesn't move forward. This is how ASEAN works too. Everyone needs to agree on decisions to make sure all countries are happy with the outcome. Since we got decision making based on consensus, it means that everyone's voice counts and no one gets left out in the cold. The decision making is consensus driven. Hence, it's vital to ensure that all member states are on board with a proposed resolution or decision. Let's say you are a delegate of the Republic of Malaysia and your country's stance about a certain topic is negative. Even though the other 9 ASEAN member states affirmed and agreed on this certain topic, and you're the only one disagreed, the paragraph or the proposition on that certain topic will not be passed. This underscores the importance of consensus building and compromise within a science context. So there must be 10 votes at the end of the ASEAN summit. If it is only 9, then it will not become a framework. It will not become a chairman's statement. So yeah, everyone needs to be on board. Next slide. So trade-offs and concessions. So what is trade-offs and concessions? When you're working out a deal, like trading books with friends, it's important to understand how to make compromises and trade-offs. What is compromises and trade-offs? Imagine you really want a book from your friend, but they don't want your book and you want to exchange books. Instead, they want your bag. So instead of exchanging books, you will exchange things. So you will give your book to your friend, and then I mean, you will give your bag to your friend, and your friend will give his or her book to you, and then you both have the things that you want. So you don't need to uh, have a heated argument based on the certain disagreement in your first issue. So this is where trade-offs come in. It means you might give up something to get what you really want. It's like a fair exchange where both of you will give and take that has been reached into an agreement. So, in the context of AFMAM, imagine you're the minister of Indonesia and you're trying to make a trade deal. Your country really wants better access for your agricultural products to be sold in other countries because it is your advantage, it is your asset. But the other side wants something different, like better rules for protecting inventions and brands. Instead of sticking firmly to only your demands, you can find a way to meet in the middle. So you might agree to improve the protection for inventions if other side allows more of your farm products into their markets. This way, both sides get something they want, making it a fair trade. However, not all trades are the same. That's why it's important to carefully think about what you're giving up and what you're getting in return. But but before you agree as an ambassador, as a diplomat, and as uh, as a representative, think about what you're giving up and what you're getting in return. If you're giving up something important but not getting much in exchange, and then just don't agree, and then just decide to keep it and try to find a better deal. And it's all about finding a balance where both sides feel good about the trade. That's why in AFMAM, you really need to have a good foundation of your country's position. Next is the negotiation styles. Negotiation styles are like different strategies you can use to reach a deal. And for your information, there are four main styles you might encounter. You can be a competitive negotiator that is focused on winning and might push hard for their own goals, even if it means being tough on others. For example, you will insist on very strict targets for reducing carbon emission, which could be challenging for some countries to meet. On the other hand, you can be collaborative. You can work to find solutions that benefit everyone, like teaming up to create ideas for tackling climate change to make all countries support. You can also become an accommodative negotiator, which is willing to make concessions and compromise, even if it means giving up some of your national interests, so that you will have an agreement. And lastly, you can be a compromising negotiators, which looks for middle ground, trying to balance different demands so that everyone gets a bit of what they want, but not everything. Each style has its own strengths and weaknesses, and knowing which one to use in different situations can help you negotiate during AFMAM. For instance, a collaborative or compromising style might be best for finding common solutions, while a competitive style could be useful for pushing important goals of your country. Understanding different negotiation styles and when to use them can make a big difference in reaching successful agreements. You know, in AFMAM, at the end of the day, It is like a competition where at the end of the day, in ASEAN chairman statement, your national interest must gain a lot. So you need to work on that during the AFMAM simulation. Next. So in order to achieve that goal, to have many recommendations get uh, published in the chairman statement, you need to have a coalition building, and whatever your sources or power may be, use them wisely and strategically. Build alliances, cultivate relationships, and play to your strengths. By maximizing your sources of power, you can increase your influence at the negotiation table and drive the conversation in that direction you want it to go. First off, why is coalition building so important? Well, this ASEAN, ASEAN meetings is like a competition of numbers. By joining forces with other delegations who share your interests and objectives, you can increase your collective bargaining power and tip the scales in your favor. It means if you have uh, many allies regarding this certain topic, you will have you will have the power to persuade other people because you will have the numbers. You can use the other delegates to persuade the other delegates to join your group. For instance, if you are the delegates of the Philippines and you want to discuss the Chinese militia vessels within your EEZ, so you want to resolve dispute in the South China Sea. However, there are Myanmar, Lao PDR, and Cambodia who are leaning to China. But you also have allies such as Vietnam, Indonesia, and Brunei. And then there is Thailand and Singapore who are standing neutral. So how do you go about building a coalition? It's all about strategy, it's all about communication and relationship building. And as a delegate, you should encourage open dialogue, brainstorming sessions, and joint decision making to ensure everyone feels invested in the process. So, once again, remember that in AFMAM and also in ASEAN Summit, we have the ASEAN value of consensus building. So, at the end of the day, we must respect one another because we have the notion of non-interference. Next slide. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. Have have fun and be amazing. So I'm so excited for you to become a delegate and to experience AFMAM as this will help you to be a better ASEAN youth by knowing ASEAN diplomacy, ASEAN summit, and how to be a good ASEAN citizens. Thank you very much, everyone.
Ooh, let's give Mr. Christopher a round of applause. Whoa! A very meticulous explanation on the AFMAM conduct as well as the guideline. You must learn a lot today, right, everybody? Whoa! So I would like to firstly express my sincere gratitude for sharing this information. We all learned a lot today, and particularly in knowing our position and also to value our own belief because in the group we were talking about how we always put forward the consensus building. So yes, everybody, so it is important that we appreciate everyone's opinion, especially when one does not agree, then that should also be considered as a no. So I was telling in the group, Mr. Christopher, that I would really love to see everyone in here to do their batna. let's let's see if you can do the batna. That's pretty hard to do. But I would like to also inform the committee would like you all to fill in the registration form. So please fill in the registration form so that you know what will be in the sorry, so that we can record your attendance. And we also would like to um, I think I'm gonna inform as well after this some details about the collection test. For now, we have about 5 minutes. Hi everyone, do you have any further questions about the conduct of the AFMAM? So that we, oh, okay, so we already, right, okay. We're gonna take three first, okay, three first, and then we'll continue after that. Yes, we have Attila, Laura, and one more. Anyone would like to ask a question in the first session? Okay, we're gonna go with Attila and Laura. Hi, Mr. Attila. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you for thank you for the Smatan. So basically, I want to ask about trade-offs and concessions. I know the concept of trade-offs and concessions, but I still don't know how to actually apply it. So, can you give us a real example of a trade-off and concession between a nation and another?
All right. Thank you. That's one question. Thank you. From Attila, what is a trade-off and concession? Next, we also have Laura earlier. Hi, Laura. Oh, she canceled.
Hi, is my voice clear right there?
Yep. Loud.
My question is, will we get a placard for MAM like MUN? If so, what are the placards used for during the meeting session? I think that's all. Thank you.
So the next question is, do we get a placard, and are we going to use what are we going to use the placard for? Okay. We're gonna go with Attila first. Go ahead, Mr. Christopher.
Okay, so for Attila, regarding trade-offs, so I will give you an example. Let's say you're the minister of Indonesia, and then you want to increase the tariff on on other other imported products. So products that will be entered in the ASEAN region, you want to you want or you have a specific tariff that you want to achieve, but other countries, other ASEAN member states don't want it. So instead of making an argument with them, we will persuade them by stating that if they support you in this initiative, I will also support your initiative, even though I don't like that initiative. So that is the power of trade-off. So it's like I will agree with what you want and you agree with what I want. But be careful because in that trade-off, you need to be smart and you need to be considering the national interest of your government. Do you understand, or you want me to make another example?
Yes, I understand. Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that means your position paper is really important doing the research on where your country is standing, so that you can make this the concession or the standoff um, valid, in my opinion. Okay, thank you very much. Next question from Laura. I'm gonna answer first. The placard. Yes, you're gonna get a placard. Now, how are you going to use the placard? Let's ask Mr. Christopher.
Okay, so the placard will okay, so you will be seated in the uh, desk, right? So your placard must be put in front of your desk, so on your desk. So when you since this is an offline event, so yep, same with MUN. If you want to speak, you need to raise your placard, the placard of your country, of your assigned country. But before you speak, you need to be recognized by the chairman, by the assigned secretariat and the national chairman for you to speak. So yeah, So if you want to speak, if you want to give a speech, or if you want to encourage other member states, just raise your placard, and then it's up to the secretariat, the national secretariat, to decide whether they will choose you to speak, or they will put the other delegates on the speaking time. Yep.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And I also would like to add that this is online and offline. So for the online, you're gonna have to raise your hand. For the on-site, yes, you can raise your placard and then wait for the recognition. Okay, so now we still have about 2 minutes. Any other questions you would like to ask before we move on to the test selections and the series and everything? No questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, then, Mr. Christopher. Now, I would like to again, hey guys, let's give a round of applause for Mr. Christopher. Thank you for the very meticulous presentation, and I still can't believe all the students are still here listening. Wow. Thank you very much. We also have students that are not going to join the AFMAM, but they would like to know more about ASEAN. So feel free to join us. Welcome aboard. But right now, I would like to move on to the AFMAM itself. Okay, I'm gonna add spotlight. So, hi everybody. So, in the AFMAM later on, you will find, as stated in the timeline, that you will have the three tests. You will have three tests because right now currently we have more than 70 schools that registered in the AFMAM, and from those 70 schools, one school can consist of one, two, even there are three teams from the same school. So obviously we need to narrow it down because we can only accommodate 10 schools for 10 to represent the 10 countries. And so there are three tests. The first test will be in English, which will be held tomorrow. The test will be conducted on the Friday afternoon, so after school. So it will be held at 3, I think it's 3:30 if I'm not mistaken. I'll show you later on in the group. And then after that, um, we will announce who passed the English test on the Monday. And then after that, you have time to study for the second test. The second test will be in the next week on the Thursday after school as well, and it will be the knowledge about ASEAN. So the information shared by Mr. Christopher, and also the book, the handout book that you received in the talk show. If you haven't received it, I will also share it in the WhatsApp group. The ASEAN handbook made by the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And after that, on the Thursday next week, 26th, then we will have the final test, which is the interview. Now, in the interview, there will only be 20. Yes, there will only be 20 schools. Yes, 20 schools. Um, those 20 schools will be um, separated into countries. Okay, so one country will be represented by two schools, and then we're going to interview each team. So we will find out if that team knows a lot about that country, making the position paper, um, know where it's standing, the legal standpoint, as well as current updates when it comes to the topic. And all that will be tested in the interview. The interview alone will be about 30 minutes for every team, and you will be doing that in a team. So starting from the test or after the test of English, it will be done all in teams. So make sure you have a team, because if you don't have a team, then we are very sorry, you may not pass the test. Okay, so that is for the explanation on the test selections. Whereas for the AFMAM alone, it will be held on the 10th and 11th October, like in the timeline. I think I should show you the timeline. Hang on, let me get you the timeline then. So there is a change of the time, everyone, and this is done because we would like to take into consideration the the fact that you're still studying during the test. So, of course, we would like you to do the lesson or do the test, and then you can take the test. This is the timeline. Hang on. Oh, and I also would like to remind again from the committee, please fill in your attendance because we will need that for your to find out about the attendance today. Come on, please. Hi everyone. So this is the timeline. So there is a change in the time. As you can see here, the can you see it clearly? I'll make it bigger then so everyone can see. Hi everybody, can you see it now? It's too far. Okay. So here we have today we have the technical meeting and the guideline, and the test tomorrow will be held at 3 until 4:30, and then we will also have the announcement on the 23 September. Hopefully we can do it by 9 o'clock. And then you will have the knowledge on ASEAN online as well. And then you will have the result on the 30 September for the announcement, and then 3 October. So this is every Thursday there will be a test. So next Thursday is the selection number 2. Then the 3rd October is the selection number 3. That's interview. And on the 4th October we will announce who will pass, and you have approximately a week to prepare for the AFMAM for students if you are selected in the announcement number 3. Yes. Is there any questions so far, everyone, regarding the timeline of the selections? Hi, everyone, any questions? Speak now, forever hold your silence. Okay, we have Nadine. Hi, Nadine. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear my voice? Is it clear?
Loud and clear, Miss Nadine. Go ahead.
Okay, I would like, first of all, I would like to apologize because I am unable to turn on the camera. So my question is for each test done individually or is it done per group or team? Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine, for the question. The first selection test tomorrow in English, you can still do it individually because um, in the end, the score will be average per team. So even if I still want to do the test. Okay, you can still take the section one test because you can do it individually. I will share the link in the group. Everyone can take it. But the announcement later on, it will be done per team. So we will announce not by name per person, but it will be announced per team. So if you do not have a team, unfortunately you cannot advance to the second selection on the knowledge because in the ASEAN knowledge, we totally recommend that you are together with your team to do this because we will post it, maybe just like a Kahoot or quizzes, and then you're going to answer it directly there together. But for the for selection number one, it's open for anyone, just like this talk show. You can still join in. But I'm sorry for for the knowledge on ASEAN. Sorry for the announcement on the selection one to move on to the selection number two. You have to be a part of a team from the same school. From the same school.
Okay, thank you.
Oh hi, now we have Keiko. Hi Keiko.
Um, Can Excellency, can I ask, will there be a listening section for the test or is it all written?
Hi Keiko. So the test will be in reading and listening. Yeah, so it's reading and listening for the test on the section number one test.
Okay, can I also ask where the test is going to be held? Like, is it through Google Form?
Yeah, so the test will be held individually. So I will give you the link, and then you're going to take the test, Keiko, and then everybody will take the test. After that, I'm going to ask you to submit your scores. Okay, you submit your scores in the Google Classroom. So the scores usually sent to your email. So you're gonna have to you can screenshot or you can forward that score into our email. Into our Google Classroom, and then after that, we're going to sort out based on the average per team. So obviously, you need to have a team so that we announce the team that passed. But the test alone is open to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, we have Marita. Hi, Marita.
Hello, so is my voice heard clearly? Okay, so I have a question about the test. So I'm gonna assume that these tests are taken individually and not by team.
Only the first one. Only
Okay.
the first one. However, even though the first one is individually taken, but the score will be averaged. So what you get, what your friend get, what the other friend get, the three of you will be summed up and then averaged. That will be the final score for the team. And then we're going to select from the school uh, which which school has the certain level. Yes. Moving
Oh,
on. Yes, I hope that explains it, Ms. Lorenza.
yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next we have Kia. Hi, Kia.
Hi, I would like to ask about how many person in each team? Like in each team, how many person like student? because from my school or from my team, we just only two person in our team. So how many person in each team? Thank you.
You're welcome, Kia. So in every team there has to be three because those three will be in the three pillars of ASEAN. Do you still remember the three pillars? Hi everybody. So the three pillars of ASEAN, you have the political and security, economics, and sociocultural. So you were going to be filling in those three meetings simultaneously. So that's why it has to be done in three.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Kia. Next we have Arya. Hi Arya.
Hello, sir. Can I ask a question? So my question is, how many teams will be selected in the first selection to move to the next selection? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good question. So in the first round, in English test, we are looking to narrow down the number of teams into just 50 teams, because right now we have 70 schools, close to 70 schools, and one school may have one, may have two, some even have three. So we have to narrow down those schools into just 50 in the first round. And in the second round, we're gonna make it even shorter into just 20. And then at the end, at the end we have 20 in the section number 3. I hope that explains it, Miss Turkia. Sorry, Miss Arya.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anyone else would like to ask a question, everybody? Aiko. Hi, Aiko.
Hi. So I want to ask, you mentioned before that the first test can be held individually, the first test, but does it affect the results if we done the first test individually, or it will be best to do it when we already have teams?
Thank you for the question. If you're doing it individually, then you are most certainly will not pass the round one selection because we only announced on the 23 September 50 teams. So it's not individual. So by 23 September, it will be in uh, in 50 teams. It's not by individual. But you still can take the test though. Does it answer the question, Saiko?
Yes, thank you very much.
Is there any more questions? It's 8:55. We are down to just 5 more minutes. I would like to remind again. Hi, don't forget to fill in the attendance, everybody. Oh, Rania. Hi, Rania.
Hi, sir. I want to ask for the selection tomorrow, for the English selection, uh, will it be okay if I do it using a phone, or will it require some typing that would be helpful if I were to do it in a computer? Or is it classified information?
Information. Right. Again, so Miss Rania, you're asking for the round one, yes?
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Okay. So for the round one, for the round two, I would suggest that bigger is better because for the round one, for
Okay.
example,
Okay.
it's reading and writing. So obviously, the bigger the screen, the better for your eyes, and you can do it better as well. For the selection number two, it's bigger is better. Why? Because you'll be doing this in team.
Okay.
So if the three of you can see the same screen, if it's just a phone, it's gonna be like three heads. Can you imagine three heads next to each other? So it's gonna be very hard.
Okay.
So it's better that you have a laptop or even a projector is better, I think, in my opinion. So make sure this goes to everybody. Hi guys, make sure you have a screen that is comfortable enough for you to do the test.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
No worries. Right. Anyone else would like to ask a question? Oh, hi Edward.
Uh, so, sorry, sir. So, can I ask a question about for the writing part on the first test will be about the grammar?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Edward. The questions will incorporate all that because it will be reading and writing. So there will be some aspects of grammar. So.
Okay, sir. Thank you for the answer.
Right. Thank you. Oh, we have Mr. Gozi. Hi, Mr. Gozi. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know if this is classified or not, but I will just ask, how many questions will there be?
I'm sorry, I cannot release that information. So you're gonna have to dive into it first.
Okay, thank you, Mister.
You're welcome. Okay, so anyone else? Hi, everybody. Oh, we have Nada. Hi, Nada. Hi, Nada. I think you're still muted.
Okay, sir. I'd like to ask, will there be a question about like the ASEAN itself, or will there be just a question about like English grammar and stuff, or will there be some Asian components in there too?
Okay, so
ASEAN, I'm sorry.
yes, thank you, Miss Nada. So these three rounds, they have different focus. So the first focus on the round one is English because Mr. Christopher just laid out for us. The lingua franca is in English, so we need to make sure everybody has a certain standard of English. So that's why anyone can take it, but we're gonna only publish the teams, 50 teams. And then the next round is knowing about ASEAN. So we need to make sure that it's not just about your English skill, but you also know about ASEAN. So that's why we need the whole team, okay, to pass this test. If you pass the test on ASEAN on the round two, then comes the number three. Now that you know about ASEAN, can you really represent a country? Do you know where you're standing? You know what it is about? Have you done your homework? So we're gonna find out what you found in your research in the interview. So these three rounds, these three tests serve different purposes. So if you're asking in the round one, will there be an ASEAN? No, there will not be anything about ASEAN. I hope that explains it. Hi, Miss Nada.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that.
Hi, everyone. It's 9:01. I would like to remind you that we passed the 1 minute mark. Congratulations, everybody. You've been here for 3 straight hours. Wow. 3 straight hours. I would like to applaud everybody here. Wow, so cool. And thank you very much for still wanting to know more about AFMAM. But I'm pretty sure that you still have questions maybe, or you are already clear. But if you would like to ask in the group, okay, or you want to ask in the Instagram, you want to contact us in the comment or DM, it's fine. Go ahead and ask. Um, I would like to also extend the sincere gratitude. Thank you very much to Mr. Christopher for sharing everything about AFMAM so that we really know how it is conducted, and very, very insightful. Never knew that Lao PDR is actually like that. It doesn't have any, what's that again? Does not really, they have the rights not to care much about the South China Sea, whereas for countries like Thailand, like Vietnam. Well, that's a very big thing. But okay, thank you. And also about the Myanmar. Wow, okay. So 2026, no Myanmar. Okay. So I would like to remind again, hi everybody, please don't forget to fill in your attendance. I would like to stop share now. And I would like to give the last spot to two persons. Number one to Mr. Christopher, and the last one is to our head of the committee, Mr. Hadianto. Mr. Christopher, any final remarks from you? Please go ahead.
So now I just want to give a motivation statement for all of you. So just enjoy the process, and even though you will not get selected at the official delegates of AFMAM for students, just continue better. Just do well in your certain field of endeavor, and who knows, you can also join the AFMAM by the ASEAN Foundation. So you can also have the chance to become the delegates of ASEAN member uh, ASEAN member countries. And sometimes in ASEAN foundations, we have the programs where you can have the chance to go to other countries. Like me, during my time, I got accepted as a delegate of Singapore, and also as a delegate of Indonesia, and I was able to experience this in Cambodia. So I hope you can also have that chance. And yep, so just for now, just study more about ASEAN, improve your English, and just prepare for the selection process. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christopher. And next up is I would like to give the floor to Mr. Hardianto as the head of the committee. Mr. Hardianto, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. Did you hear my voice? Okay. First of all, I will thanks to Mr. Christopher Giral to as our keynote speaker for tonight. It is a great show, a great content, and I think it will be make our spirit getting high. Yeah, for sure, you guys join AFMAM for student because we are the one. So we're the one official supported Model Asian meeting from ASEAN Foundation. So we will you will get the truth point how to make a Model Asian meeting. That's not only for students but as for the public and the standard international one. So I think we are glad to have you acceptance your contribution and participation in our program. So as a chief committee, I will say to thank you for you. Stay healthy and have a good rest for tonight. Thank you for attending our talk show for today. For the last word, I just say one. I just want to you have to open your cam. We take the picture for us, and it is a very good show for Wi-Fi. Okay, can you open the cam, please, all of you? Okay, I will take the photo. Waiting for another people to open the cam. Okay, first page. I will take a photo. Say cheese. Cheese. The second page. Uh, can you open the cam? All of you. It's okay, Jordan. That's a technical problem. It's okay. Say cheese. The third page. Can you open the cam, please? Okay. And the last one. I will take the picture. Okay, that's all for tonight. I will give it back to our master ceremony and our moderator, Mr. E. Go ahead, Mr. E.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone. Earlier we gave a round of applause to Mr. Christopher. Now I would like you to raise your hand, right hand first, right hand up, and pat yourself on the back. Good job, everybody. Good job. Yes, good job, everyone. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending this guideline of AFMAM. I would like to end the meeting, and we're gonna end it with a prayer. So, hi, everybody. We're gonna pray according to our religion. Prayer begins. Right, and thank you very much, everyone. Everyone can leave except the committee. Mr.
All right.
Christopher, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for attending. Bye. See you at the
Stay
test tomorrow.
healthy.